Hello, Africa. Welcome to Elevation Talk. I'm so happy to be hosting you today. My name is Prophetess Njifia Mwale, and I'll be talking you into your next level. I hope you're ready. I hope you're prepared, because listen, Africa is emerging, and I hope you'll be a part of it. And I hope that everything that you're learning from this channel, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't shared this, please just share it to somebody who you might think might not even need it. Share it to all your contacts. And let's grow this channel together and just empower Africa, one click, one video at a time. I'm so excited to be here again today. So I want to be talking to you about something that, you know, it's a little bit funny to me because I'm also a victim of it. But it's something that we need to kind of like consider if we're going to be moving forward as Africans and think about, have we really recovered from colonialism completely, or are we dealing in a post-traumatic syndrome disorder period as nations? I was watching Professor Patrick Lumumba recently, and he was talking about, okay, fine, Africa may have lost the first 50 years of its independence, but are we going to lose the next 50? And it starts by realizing that colonialism had such a big effect. And listen, it was actually an affliction on us by the Western powers. Colonialism, and somebody is saying, oh, why are you taking us back? I'm taking you back because if we don't uproot some of the things that were planted into our systems, into our thinking, if we don't break those paradigms of thought that were given to us, that were inherited, that we inherited from our parents and from them getting from our colonial masters, we're not going to be able to move forward. So it starts by having a mental shift and having an awakening, and I pray that this might help you. So our topic today, lingering post-colonial effects, right? Lingering post-colonial effects. Some are funny, some are pretty serious. So I'll try and, you know, balance. But the number one for me, I think, is the style of governance. Like, we do not realize as Africans that what happened was we took our control back, but we took our control back and kept the same style of governance, the same patterns of governance that these people used to oppress us. And nobody ever sat down and thought, oh, how was Africa governing itself before colonialism, pre-colonialism? We had kings, we were royalty, and I recently actually found out I come from a royal lineage. So, but we were royalty, we had kings, we had rulers, we had indunas, we had order, and then they came in and they became presidents and they told you, no, you are chiefs. Right? Have we ever wondered how chiefs came about? They came about because they wanted to make them feel like they had some type of power, but it was very localized and very centralized kind of power, as opposed to the kind of power that they had over us. So we've been dealing with democracy, basically. Democracy is another post-lingering effect. We've been dealing with democracy, and if we're being honest with ourselves, democracy hasn't worked in Africa. It really has not worked. We've had democracy for over 50 years, 55 years, 60 years in some countries, and we're still talking about poverty in 2021. So we need to sit down and maybe as Africans together, united, decide what would be the best system of governance for us. If we're going to implement some of the things that they left behind, what are we going to choose that also kind of like gives us a cultural reset and that considers our culture? You can't have a governing system that completely dishonors your culture and your Africanism. So, if that's a word, is that a word? you can't have that in government. So we've had these, and we've been going through years and years, and guess what? They have developed and improved their systems of governance. So we're stuck with how they governed in 1938. So I want you to think about that. The second one, I mean, I kind of like mixed democracy into that one, but also I think it's how we look at presidents, right? And this term dictator is normally associated with either the Arabs or Africans, but look at the British, for example, right? The Queen has been in place for how long? But when it happens in the UK, or it happens in other sophisticated countries, then it's called a monarch, right? But here it's dictatorship. right? Nobody ever complains about Prince Charles will take over. That's nepotism. But in Africa, it definitely would. So like, we need to think about, okay, so if they're still sticking to some of these principles, then why aren't we? Why did they take away our systems? That some of them that they actually learned from Africa themselves. So think about that. Another effect is language, right? Look at me here, sitting down, speaking to you, and look at you listening, processing in English. This is how we speak now. Black people are either speaking French, or they're either speaking Portuguese, or they're either speaking English. We've kind of like done away with our own languages, and we've made this normal. But it's not. Imagine somebody coming and taking something like language from you and telling you that your country should speak this way for it to be recognized worldwide. And when we talk about language, it starts from I remember being in nursery school, and if you were heard speaking Nyanja or Bemba or whatever, it was such an issue among kids. Like, why are you speaking vernacular in class? Teachers would punish you for speaking your own mother tongue. Can you imagine how ridiculous that is? Because they gave us an inferiority complex where we felt like what they have to offer is better. If you're good at what they offer, then you're refined, you're better. No, that's not correct. We can be civilized and refined in our own right, in our own culture. And it's so sad. This really breaks my heart, like, to know that speaking English is considered elite in society, even by adults, not just children. Oh my God, this might be a long video. So, this is a big issue. Like, we need to sit down and think about. I remember years back, I think about 7, 8, 9 years ago, when Zambia had brought back local languages into the curriculum in the education system, there was an uproar by parents. And I was one of those people saying, why are they doing this? Because I know better now, okay? But there was an uproar by parents because they didn't understand the importance of children learning their own languages. So I want to say to you that if you have children, you're in the diaspora, you're wherever, don't ever forget your culture. It was part of colonization to make you forget the importance of who you are, so that you want to be something that you are not. I'm going to move on from there because it might get emotional, right? Accents. Accents is a post-colonial lingering effect. A lot of, including myself, a lot of us, we speak in these accents that sound like white people. I've never seen a Chinese person speak like an African. They'll stay in this country, they'll get the gold, they'll mine the copper, they'll even sell maize, right? At the marketplace, chickens, they'll sell you brim, but they'll never speak like you. Why? They value who they are and where they come from. But you hear every African who just has a TV who has a TV speak like a white person. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Like, when are we going to realize that we are enough? When are we going to realize that we are admirable as is? And I see even parents side-eyeing their children for speaking like Africans. Like, why are you side-eyeing a kid for speaking like the country they are in? And I mean, honestly speaking, we need to change this. We've picked it up from school, we've picked it up from our parents. We've been told when you speak with a certain accent, you sound, more eloquent, you sound more put together, but it's a lie. And I want you to remember that there's so many people who've traveled into other countries. They don't come back with accents the way that Africans pick up accents. It's so easy for Africans to do that, but you never hear a Brit who lived in Zambia 20 years speak like a Zambian. So think about that. Why is it that it's easy for you to do and hard for them to do? The next thing is the education system. The entire education system is a lingering post-colonial effect, because this is the education. They were training us to think like them. And I was hearing a man, I think it's Joshua Maponga III, he was talking about, is it really education when it's training you to be like another man? Education that tells you about another man. Like, we literally spent years talking about Europe. We literally spent years talking about things that were not even beneficial to us. The education is used to condition the mind of a man because it gives you information to process and to believe. But what's education if it doesn't talk about African history? We don't know where our languages came from. We don't know where our names came from. We don't know what was happening pre-colonial. We have no idea who was ruling, who was the king, who was running things in this part of Africa. Like, listen, we need to wake up and see that if education is moving you away from the core values of your culture, especially, there's a problem. There's a difference between civilization, right, and westernization, or modernization and westernization. But you find that a lot of us are now becoming westernized. And even if and this is no shade to Black Americans, but even if you say, okay, we're being more like Black Americans, do you realize that they still struggle with identity? So why are we, the whole of Africa, trying to be like people who don't even have a place to really call home? People who are still trying to figure out where they come from, where their roots are from. And it's really something to think about. Like, we need to stand firm and just literally have a cultural reset as Africans. Culture reset. The next thing, I want to move on because I'm going to keep on talking about this. It's fashion. Our fashion, we're completely influenced. Look at me, right? We're completely influenced by the West. We don't even know what people were wearing prior to this. And trust me, it was not all rugs. It was not all grass. No, it wasn't. There was so much that we had. There was so much that we had that was taken away from us. And let me tell you why we don't have a history. We don't have a history because our way of keeping information was from passing it oral. What do you call that system? Where you pass the information from one elder to another. We had an oral way of distributing information. And now imagine our parents were pulled away from their villages into town, and they lost a big part of time to hear from their elders what the history was prior to this. Another one in fashion is just basically how we look. Like, we want straight hair. We need to begin to embrace what we look like, our afros, our textures. We need to embrace those and just realize we're fine the way we are. Even for men may be watching this, looking at their wives and saying yes, but have you ever wondered why it's called an English cut? Yeah, English cut. You go for an English cut every Friday. And you've never asked yourself why it's called that, because they probably didn't like how you looked with your hair growing up because it was different. They told you an English cut will make you look, better, sophisticated, and you went for it, you took the bait, and now we're here. I don't blame any of you because I'm a victim of this as well, but I've made a decision, and we should all make the decision to now step out and see ourselves for what we really are, royalty. I'll move on to the next one. Lack of codified history, post-lingering colonial effects. Like I said, because we passed down information in that way, we didn't have an opportunity to be able to codify our own history, and therefore we don't know anything. It takes so much research just to find out the little knowledge that we have. The next issue basically is the narrative of Africa on mainstream media, because now we have neo-colonialism still existing. You find that the mainstream media is controlled to keep Africa looking like a dirt hole. Like, basically there's nothing productive happening here because the imperialists that are making money in this continent do not want even their other foreign people to know how lucrative it is to do business in this continent. So they keep the narrative going of poverty so that everybody should think, oh my God, if you come you die of malaria the same day, if you come this happens to you. So we need to use our social media and do something about changing the narrative, and I feel like the responsibility is each of ours, right? The next thing is just dilution of culture. We've diluted our culture. We now think our culture is primitive. Somebody came and told us, if you can't be like a white person, if you can't be like a British person, a French man, then you're primitive. So there's a lot that we've lost because of that, right? The next thing I feel is a post-lingering effect is borders. The borders that we have were given to us in 1885 by the Europeans when they were scrambling for Africa in the Berlin Conference. They are the ones that mapped out the map of Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa. And there are still countries who actually still have their colonial names. So they map these things out, so we need to kind of like know, like, okay, so basically as a country, are we still okay with the borders that we have? As a continent, are we still okay with the borders that we have? And that's the situation on the ground. So these borders were given to us by these people, and this is why sometimes it's almost I don't want to use the word foolish, but it is foolish to actually have xenophobia, because these borders were given to us by people who glorified and who are gloried for keeping us captive economically and socially, financially. So I want you to think about that. The last one is poverty. Poverty, the reason why Africa is poor is because we've been making other continents rich. And they've done everything to keep us, whether it's by policy or it's by whatever, they do everything to keep us in a position of not being able to refine. So that they can refine and make the money, and they can keep us giving us, we can keep on giving them what we have, our minerals, because this is what this continent is blessed with. So poverty is here because we've been enriching other continents. Racial inferiority complex. So there's been a racial inferiority complex. White people are treated as if they are more superior. Like, because, listen, an education system that has glorified certain people makes you feel like they're better, they achieve more, they do more, they think better. There's so many great black people who've done great things, but nobody ever records it. And that's the difference between black people and a white man. A white man, because of them being so meticulous, they make sure that they write down everything they do, and they publicize, because they control media, what they do. So I just want to remind everybody, the last thing that bothers me about the whole colonial thing, and somebody may say this may not really be, it's on the fence, but it's the flag. Our flags and our national anthem. Our national anthems for like about 6 countries were written by the same white British woman. Yeah. Was there nobody else to write our national anthems? And you hear a few countries, our national anthems sound almost the same, just different words. I really feel like that's something that needs to be looked in by, government and Africans as well. Like, if do the research, find out on your own and see what I'm talking about. So I think I'm gonna end there for today. And this thing of, like, you need to realize we've been forced to be bilingual by our colonial masters, but don't ever forget your language, don't ever forget your culture. And they're not even bilingual. Most of them can't even do what we do. By being bilingual is not easy. This thing of broken English, I don't even know where it came from. We're supposed to speak broken English. We're not supposed to be so confident. We're just supposed to know enough to get us around and empower ourselves in our own language. But anyway, those are topics for other days. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you are empowered, and I hope you can see that you've also been affected and it can change you deep down. Thank you so much for watching.